Jaune wasn't sure what to do once the teachers left, and the majority of both his and Ruby's team burst through the door. He had the time to wave and open his mouth, but little else as several shadows fell upon and everything became a blur of words, noises, and touching hands. Yang and Ruby were both waving their arms and talking, while Blake had hold of his shoulders and was whispering something as she tried to push him down. It hardly helped that Nora was shouting something, Ren doing his best to calm her down, and Pierre was talking over Ruby's head. "So?" Yang asked at the end, looking at him with an expectant expression. They all paused too, as though the answer was integral to their very survival. Jaune winced and took the plunge. "Yes?" "You didn't even hear the question, did you?" "It's a little hard when you're all talking at once. I'm injured here. Cut me some slack." "We were asking how you felt." Ruby whined. Her cheeks were puffed out, her silver eyes bright. But the way she looked at him made him laugh. "I'm fine, Ruby." "How can you be fine after what happened? Don't lie to us just to make us feel better. That's not fair." The others gave him solemn looks too, and he noticed that Weiss was absent. Still, it looked like they wouldn't take no for an answer. "I feel tired and sick," he said. "My body is stiff and there's a hole in my memory, right around the time it happened. It doesn't hurt to try and remember it, but it feels like I'm trying to walk on a lake that's been iced over. Every time I think I'm about to remember, I slip in and lose it." "Will you be okay though? Will you get better?" "The doctor says so. I'll be fine, Ruby." Blake pushed through next, to take one of his hands between hers. "Jaune, I'm sorry," she said, with an expression that could be described as agonized. "This is all my fault. If I hadn't—" "None of that," he interrupted. "If I could muster the energy to knock some sense into you, I would. This was an accident, Blake. No one is at fault, except for maybe Torchwick, and yet now, he wouldn't be able to answer for it. The fact he was still dead still shook him. But I was... If it were me, they might not have been so brutal." Jaune raised an eyebrow, aware of what she meant. As an ex-White Fang member, and more importantly, someone precious to Adam, she might not have been tortured so. There was one problem with that hypothesis, however. That wasn't the real White Fang, Blake. They were rookies and new recruits, civilians given weapons and told to die for the cause. The whole operation was run by Torchwick, and after you ruined his plans at the docks, and then at the warehouse, I think you've been lucky to take a bullet to the head. Things worked out. It would have only gotten worse when Roman realized she had no valuable information. All in all, even with what happened, it was best this way. He could recover from this. She couldn't from being executed. "That's so flawed," Blake whispered. "Things didn't work out. You were captured and subjugated to something terrible. And now I'm alive and being subjugated to something adorable," he said, reaching out to place a hand atop her head. "It's the results that count. No, I wouldn't want to go through it again, and hey, I probably won't have to. I don't want to dwell on it." "Perhaps that's for the best," Pierre said. "I'm not sure it's healthy, but it can't be worse than reliving it every moment of the day." The redhead smiled down at him and pushed some hair back behind her ear. "I'd ask for your team's sake that you don't do it again, though. They've been difficult to deal with ever since you were hospitalized. Now you know what I go through on a daily basis. It's hard looking after those two." "We're hard to look after?" Yang laughed. "Daddy is saying something naughty, Blake. I think we should punish him." "Not until he's recovered, Yang." "Did they say when you could leave?" "Not yet," he said. The door opened at that moment, and he saw Sune and Weiss enter and close it behind them. His partner looked nervous, but that was soon replaced with concern when she saw him. She pushed through the crowd to arrive at his side. Her eyes roamed up and down his body. "Are you okay?" Do you feel okay? He groaned. Oh, gods. It's a repeat. Weiss, I'm fine. I feel sick, but I'm alive and well. Well, excuse me for being concerned for my partner's welfare after he was brutally tortured. Brutally tortured? He wouldn't go that far. There'd been no broken bones and blood. The drugging had been almost surgical in its application and a lot cleaner than things he'd experienced before. That was what made it so horrifying, though. It was something he couldn't resist with brute force of will. To people like them, though, it probably looked brutal. He didn't bother to point that out. It would only have made them feel bad, and that was the last thing he wanted. Sorry, he said instead. They just asked me the same questions a minute ago. I didn't mean anything. I guess I'm just a little out of it still. That might be my moment to intervene, the doctor said. I'm sure this is going to be an unpopular decision, but Mr. Ark needs his rest. She was right on it being unpopular, though one hardly needed a crystal ball to guess that. Yang and Ruby complained loudly, while Blake's hands tightened around him as though she didn't want to let go. To be honest, he didn't either, but he could see the sense in her words. He felt exhausted, as though gravity itself was too strong. Maybe when he woke up next, his body wouldn't feel so alien. Everything felt off, like his limbs had suddenly grown overnight or something. That's not fair, Weiss said. I haven't even had the chance to talk to my partner. He's only just woken up, and that's miracle enough so soon after what happened. Right now, he doesn't need to be fatigued, even mentally, by questions and heavy thinking. You can all come back tomorrow, and he might even be free for release. Can I stay? Weiss asked. Just for a moment. 5 minutes. I need to speak with him. Sune opened her mouth to deny the request, but paused when Jaune spoke. I'm fine with it, he said. We won't be long, I promise. The doctor stared at them for a long moment but sighed. You have 5 minutes and no longer. I want everyone else out of the room, however. The others complained, but they were no match for the older woman. Jaune squeezed Blake's hand with his, then smiled at Yang to assure her barely concealed fear. He knew their problems more than he did his own in some cases. Yang feared abandonment, whether it be a person choosing to leave her, or someone being torn away as Summer had. He wasn't going anywhere though, and she seemed to recognize that, for her eyes lit up and she smiled back. Sune ushered them to the door and out, turning to mouth 5 minutes to the two of them. Jaune winced as he pushed himself up into a sitting position. It wasn't that his body hurt. He was too medicated for that. Both from the good and bad drugs, he guessed. Even so, his body felt stiff, and it felt weirdly detached how his bones grinded together, but he couldn't feel it. Soft hands settled on his shoulders and helped him into the position, fluffing 2 cushions under his head. He let her, if only because he could imagine how much it meant to Weiss for her to be able to help. So, he said once comfortable, what was it you wanted to ask? I wanted to see for myself if you were okay, Weiss said. I know you put on a show for them, and probably for me as well, but I thought I'd ask you to honestly tell me. I'm not lying to you right now, Weiss. He was more than aware of how that made it clear he had in the past, but based on the way she silently laughed, he felt she knew. I feel rough. It's the best way to put it. There's no pain thanks to all the medication, but I'm still distantly aware that my body feels in bad shape. I also feel a little dizzy and sick, but that's just from it all wearing off. I promise you, I'm being honest with that. Weiss reached out to touch his arm and smiled. Thank you. I know I've not always been the best partner, but you can come to me if there's any trouble. I'm going to try and help, but please, don't hide anything from us, Jaune. You hurt more than just yourself like this. Weiss sighed. A wave of guilt washed over him. She was right, of course. Even when he did his best to keep things to himself, it just caused problems for his team. In his defense, Mountain Glen was meant to be a safe and easy mission. "I'll cooperate," he said. "I have a feeling Blang and Yang will freak out if I didn't." What do you expect? No daughter wants to watch their father self-destruct. Weiss's smile fell a moment later, and she looked away from him, as though searching for the right words. "Jaune, on the train, I saw the things you did." I don't remember any of it." The way she looked didn't inspire confidence, though. "What did I do?" "You." Weiss sighed and looked back to him. "You killed a lot of people, Jaune." He felt sick. It originated in his stomach but quickly flashed up to his throat. "Osmond said I didn't hurt any of my allies," he whispered. "He said you stopped me." Weiss's hands were quick to settle on his shoulders and push him back. "I did," she said. "You didn't hurt any of our people, Jaune. I just... The White Fang who were on the train. You killed a lot of them." "The White Fang?" Jaune fell back with an audible sigh of relief. It was short-lived, however. He noticed Weiss watching him, and then froze up as he imagined what that looked like. He opened his mouth to speak, but she cut him off. "It's like the docs again. Blake said you showed no mercy, but I was never... I guess I never really understood what that meant until now." One of Weiss's hands came up to play with her hair. It was clear she was nervous, but she kept her blue eyes on his. "I feel like I should be able to claim I understand. It's the White Fang, and I never thought anyone would have reason to hate them more than I do. But I've never wanted to do the things you did to them." Most of them looked terrified, like they never had a chance. "I can't even imagine how much you despise them." Jaune's eyes clenched shut. Despise? Yes, he supposed he did. They were always present at the end, a force who worked with Cinder for nothing more than their own twisted goals. What obstacle to peace were the students of Beacon? They weren't responsible for the racism that influenced the older generation. They'd done nothing wrong. Certainly nothing to deserve the fate Adam and those bastards melted upon them. Then there was Blake, executed before his eyes. But the list went on. Enough lifetimes of trying different things herald results that could change every time. Sometimes Yang lost an arm. Sometimes she lost much more. "I hate them," he whispered. "I can tell." He waited for her to continue, but she didn't. A pit opened up in his stomach. "Where does this leave us?" he asked. "Are you disappointed in me now?" "What? No, you fool!" Weiss stepped a little closer, and for a moment she almost looked offended. "Don't think that, you idiot. You were out of your mind even before this happened, and I know," she added when he made to speak. "I know it was more than just that. I know you wouldn't have felt mercy for them anyway, but that doesn't change who you are to me. You killed at the docks, even if I never quite realized what it meant. I wanted you to know I didn't care, because you were bound to find out about it from Yang or Blake. I'm sure you've instantly leapt to the wrong conclusion and decided I hated you." "You're mad," he whispered. "How can you just ignore all of that?" "I have no idea." Jaune blinked and looked towards her. That wasn't the answer he expected. "Huh?" "I have no idea," she repeated with a smile. "Every part of me tells me I should be disappointed, even appalled by what I saw. But I am not. I can't explain why I feel this way, but I do. Maybe I'm the one who's insane." "Ugh, you must be," he groaned. I'm not going to regret what I did, Weiss. I know. I won't ask you to. Did I? When I was under the influence, did I hurt anyone else?" he asked. "Did I hurt any of you?" No. He caught the twitch in her face immediately. Liar, he whispered. Ah, damn you, Jaune. Weiss flipped her head back and sighed. You hit me by accident, she said. I tried to stop you by force and you didn't realize it was me. You turned and caught me with your elbow. It barely did any damage and I only fell over because I was startled. Weiss pulled her hair back and leaned forward to show the skin beneath her left eye. It was as clear as ever, with no sign of bruise or injury. You didn't even pierce my aura. See? He stared for a few seconds, but was finally able to breathe easily when even he couldn't see any harm. Sorry about that then, he said. It's fine. You froze when you saw it was me. She paused to smile. Even out of your mind, you still didn't want to harm me. Or maybe the fear of what you'd do in return was enough to transcend even an overdose. He teased. Weiss slapped his arm lightly with one hand. Hey, idiot. She glowered. You have a special ability to ruin any moment. Maybe it's my semblance. I wouldn't be surprised. Weiss huffed. She could only hold it for a moment as he smiled at her, however, and eventually, she succumbed and glanced away. Idiot. She mumbled, unwilling to even show him that he amused her. How cold. I'm glad you're back, Jaune. I'm glad we all are. Me too. It wouldn't last for long, of course. The festival approached, and with it, the end. But for what it was worth, he was content with life as it was. They were alive. He was here to spend time with them, and he would call his family as soon as he didn't look like a corpse. Life was... it was good. As good as it could be, anyway. You said some strange things, you know. Huh? When the breach occurred, she said. You couldn't tell friend from foe and were lashing out, but I managed to calm you down. You said some things, though. They were... I'm not sure what to make of them. Oh no. That didn't sound good. If the drugs worked anything like alcohol, then there was a chance he might have blurted out something he wasn't supposed to. What did I say? He asked. You said I was dead, or that you thought I died. You thought Blake and Yang were dead as well. Ah. I must have known I'd been captured and that you were all still in Mountain Glen, even while drugged. He said. I guess my mind jumped to the worst conclusion. That makes sense. Weiss looked away for a moment, as though unsure if she should continue. Weiss, what is it? You said something else, Jaune. You said you thought I was an illusion. That it was one of her illusions. Weiss's eyes hardened, but it was clear she wasn't upset at him. Jaune, did someone do something to you? Perhaps before Beacon? He wasn't sure what to say. Damn his loose tongue. But at least he hadn't mentioned Emerald's name. If he had, Weiss might have confronted her, and Jaune knew from experience how that would go. Cinder didn't need her team at Beacon. It was convenient for her, and better here than not. But she could start her invasion from the crowd, or even the city itself. If she felt her position was threatened, she would have killed Weiss, hunted him down, and then fled. Still, how was he to answer Weiss's question? I'm sorry, that was insensitive of me. Weiss sighed. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. I was just worried about you. Or she could take care of it for him. It's not something I really want to talk about. He acknowledged. It's not anything you need to worry about, since it's not happening to me anymore. Yet. I guess I might have thought it was when I was drugged. I can't remember anything, but maybe I was hallucinating or thought I saw something I didn't. I guess. You know, I always help if I know you will, Weiss. Seriously. I know you'll do anything. I trust you with anything. My faith in you is not in question. Not in a million years. It's just not something I want to talk about." Was that all I said? "There was one other thing. You said you were afraid to close your eyes, because you weren't sure I'd still be there when you opened them." He groaned and covered his eyes with one arm. What an embarrassing line. For crying out loud. You'd think me being high on drugs would be enough to make a speech all but impossible, but apparently I wouldn't shut the hell up. "Drugged me sounds like an idiot," he said. "I already hate him." "You were scared." Weiss giggled. He didn't sound stupid at all. "I was drugged, probably hallucinating, and I'm over it." He sighed. "Look, I can close my eyes, open them, and you're still here." He repeated the gesture several times for her. Weiss chuckled. "Try it again," she said, "except this time, keep them closed." He did so, and he felt his breath hitch a second later when he felt something soft but unmistakable against his lips. A cool hand cupped his cheek and turned his face to the side. Even as he felt her hair brush against his face, idly he noted a whiff of vanilla, even as a sigh escaped and accepted the gentle pressure. It was all washed away a moment later when he tilted his head and leaned into her. If Weiss intended to put him at ease, she failed. He was breathless. When she drew back, her cheeks were dusted with pink, and her lips shone from where they touched his. She backed away, and his eyes traced her neck when she swallowed. "I want you to remember that," she whispered. "The next time you think I'm an illusion or that I'm not real, I want you to remember this moment." He could only stare after her as she backed away. She was gone a moment later, her back turned to his and her ponytail swaying as she rushed out of the door. Two fingers came up to brush his lips, and they came away wet. Remember it? He wasn't sure he could forget. Her taste lingered on his lips still, a strange blend of vanilla, freshly fallen snow, and something unmistakably Weiss. Jaune leaned back against his pillow, trying to make sense of it all, but all he could feel when he closed his eyes was the memory of her lips against his. He sighed. One thing was for sure. That definitely hadn't been an illusion. If Emerald could make them so good, he doubted anyone would ever awake from them. His eyes drifted shut as he allowed a slumber to claim him, but curiously, there were no nightmares to plague his rest. Only one beautiful dream. Osmond sat at his desk, a screen projected into the air before him. On it, the faces of several figures were superimposed, their expressions grim. The headmaster finished his report and then paused to take a calming drink. "The recent terrorist attack has left the populace troubled," one said. "They would become so bold. No one could have predicted this." "The response from Beacon was rapid, however," another remarked. "It has done much for the confidence of the people. There were no reported fatalities, and it has all heartened them to see their taxes well spent. You deserve credit for that, Osmond." "Thank you, council member." In the top corner, a figure leaned forward. His old friend, James Ironwood, looked incensed. "This is a bold new attack by the White Fang. It confirms our fears for why they have stolen so much dust. With the Vital Festival approaching, I must ask, has the council considered my suggestion?" "Atlas has long been a military ally of Vale," one of the council members said. "Your offer of aid for the festival is much appreciated." Osmond's fingers tightened around his mug. "However, in light of recent circumstances, we believe the security and protection for the tournament is best left in the hands of Beacon." There were murmurs of surprise from many of the delegates in the corps, but none matched his own. He hid it behind a small smile. "This is a mistake," Ironwood said. "A strong military presence is necessary, and Beacon does not have that. While I have full faith in Osmond, my forces could. Your forces were unable to prevent the theft of several of your prototype weapons, General Ironwood. With all due respect, I believe it was the headmaster of Beacon who returned those to you. Is that not correct?" "It is." The huntsman responsible was labelled as one Crow Branwen. He is one of yours, is he not, Osman? Crow is a valued ally and has assisted me in several matters. He agreed. In lieu of the recent increase in White Fang activity, I saw fit to keep him in Vale for the last few weeks. And a good decision that proved. Several White Fang warehouses raided, numerous terrorists captured, and he was present at the breach itself. The media was quick to pick up on Beacon's involvement, and panic has been fairly minimal. Many are pleased, if not slightly bemused, by how fast it was all over. We do our best, and your best appears more than enough to handle this White Fang insurrection, one of the figures said. With that in mind, we have decided to leave the security of Vital Festival to Osman, headmaster of Beacon Academy. We appreciate your support and cooperation in general. The military forces would only serve to further upset the populace at this time. I hope you understand. Perfectly. James scowled. Thank you for your time. His screen blinked away. Osman, we are entrusting this matter to you. Your funding has been increased as a result. We look forward to seeing a prosperous festival in these troubled times. The people need all the joy they can get. Not just for the quality of life, but to keep the grim away. It was a never-ending balance between efficiency and satisfaction. Lest the horde be drawn down upon them. Osman nodded at the screen. I appreciate your trust, council members. I shall not let you down. See that you don't, Osman.